I'm Megan. Thanks for coming to Somatics today. I'm going to do things a little bit differently. It's going to be sort of one class in two different formats. So if you only have 20 minutes or so, or maybe you're at your desk at work and you're limited in time, you might want to just do the first half of this class because I'm going to gear it towards what I call desk yoga, or yoga you can do at work. So you can do it in a chair, or if you have been sitting a lot, or if you're just feeling a little bit sassier today and you want to do any of this first part standing, that can be done too. That's good for you. But if you're at home and you're doing the whole practice, feel free to get a chair. You can also do this sitting on the ground as long as your spine is comfortable and we don't start to slouch like we're sitting at our computer. So rules in a sitting practice. Yes, there are rules. The first rule is play with movement in your body. Just move around. Move around, feel yourself. If you rock side to side, you'll feel your sits bones, and that's where we want to plant ourselves. You can go forward and back. You'll notice if you slump, then you'll come more onto the backs of the sits bones, or even into the sacral bone, that triangular bone. So if I sit like I normally would in a chair, with the chair back supporting me, that's that slump. That's lots of weight into the sacrum. The other side is sometimes we try too hard and we're here and we've got this arch in our back and we're forward of the sit bones. So just rock back and forth a little bit with your pelvis and see if you can find those sit bones and land right on them. And turn towards you again. And then follow your breath for a moment. Just follow your natural, spontaneous breath. And this practice is going to focus on hands, wrists, and shoulders. And it's a really good one if you have any sort of wrist or hand pain, carpal tunnel syndrome, for instance. But also just a general awareness of the loveliness of our hands and arms, and great for computer work. So we'll start with part of the upper body prayer for the arms. When we work with our arms, you want to extend the Frankenstein style. Tomorrow's Halloween, right? So get your Frankenstein face on. So I'm reaching out, but then I'm also plugging my arms in. So from the side, I don't really want a Frankenstein because I don't want to feel my upper back round and my chest close off. So I'm going to reach, but then I'm going to plug the arm bones into the shoulder blades. So we get that nice long extension. The first thing we do is just gently bring your thumb towards the center of the hand, and even notice that the muscles you're using in the thumbs, and slowly wrap the fingers around the thumbs. And you can do that on exhale if you want to do it to your breath, and inhale and open. So bring the thumbs in, wrap around the thumbs, and open. If you find that keeping the arms up here is too much work for you, or if it's building tension in your neck and your shoulders, this can be done with your elbows down here. So either one, but if we're up here, watch that your shoulders aren't lifting. Relax the shoulder blades down your back. So part of this is moving those muscles without creating tension. I'll be quiet, just do a few more. Feel the way your fingers move and the way the movement of the fingers can be felt all the way up the arms. And then we relax the fingers. We're going to come into our wrists. As you breathe in, lift the palms up. Think of pressing the heel of the hand slightly forward, drawing the back of the hand towards the upper arm bone. And as you breathe out, bring them all the way the opposite direction. So palms towards the bottom of the arm, and then inhale up. And just going nice and easy, but recognizing how you're feeling this all the way through your arms. So do you start to build tension in a shoulder? Can you keep the shoulders dropped and soft, the neck long, and watch that your head is not forward? Maybe take the chin back slightly so the head is sitting nicely on top of the neck. And just a nice back and forth. My wrists usually make some music. Last one there. And then we're going to come back into that softness. So bring the thumb in, feel that stretch through the thumb joint, right? Our thumbs go in circles, so we want to get those stretched out. Bring them in, and then wrap the fingers around. And you're going to make slow circles with your wrists. And what often happens is this. our arms move. It's not an arm dance, so if you need to, you can keep your elbows down at your sides, but we want to move just the wrists without flipping the forearms up or down. So the forearms are going to stay facing down. Pick one direction first. And just making some nice circles with the wrists. Sometimes I try to make them move together and it's a lot more difficult. You can switch the direction. Just feeling into your wrists. Got one more for the wrist there. Relax your fingers, flip your palms up. And now as you inhale, feel your pinky finger side of your hand. If you need to readjust, by the way, if you start to get cranky or anything, take your shoulders down. But feel the pinky finger side of your hand, and as you breathe in, draw the pinky fingers away from one another, or thumbs out towards the sides of your body. And as you exhale, bring the pinky fingers towards one another. And hold your palms up like you're holding a tray. Spread and stretch your fingers so you feel this. This is nerve flossing for the wrists. So the more you can stretch the fingers and open the palm, you can feel this all the way through your wrists to your fingers and even up into the arms. Inhaling and opening if you want to do it to the breath, and exhaling, closing. And notice I'm not flipping my wrist, I'm keeping the palms up, like I'm sliding my hands underneath a tray. Last one. All right, and then drop down, and you might notice your shoulders feel a little woozy, so you can just roll them around a bit. See how that feels? All right, so now we're going to take the hands, we're going to make a little basket. We're going to do another style of wrist flossing, but this will involve the arm more. Make a basket of the hands, and then you're going to lift one elbow up and take the other down, so you're sort of making a long, straight center middle, and then your arms are one elbow lifted, one dropped. And I like to take an inhale in that position, and then exhale and switch. Inhale in that position, and exhale and switch, or just go back and forth. So think of flossing your wrists again. And you want to put a little bit of tension in the fingers, sort of slightly squeezing the fingers. You can even pull the hands away from one another, like you're tractioning the hands. And just going back and forth, flossing the wrists out. This one on its own is really good if you're sitting at a computer a lot at work. Back and forth, lifting one elbow and drawing the other one down, so it's like you're pulling your hands away from one another, but your fingers are squeezing. All right, and then we'll let that one go. We're going to address the wrists one at a time. You're going to take your palm facing up. And I'm doing my left hand first if you want to join me. This one, rest your arm at your side, spread your fingers open, and then take your right hand to your left fingers and gently press down. So we're going to just put a little bit of pressure in and a release. You're going to feel that stretch through the top of your wrist and through your forearm. And I like to use my whole right palm to push down and release. And just play with how far do you want to go, that it's still comfortable. You might find an end point and just hold it and breathe. And the palm staying up like you're holding that imaginary tray or a plate in your hand again. But relax the shoulder and the arm. And if you want to get a little more stretch through the thumb joint and the ligaments, stretch that thumb out away from the palm as you're doing this. We'll notice the difference between relaxing the thumb versus reaching it out. Breathe into your wrist. And relax that. We'll do the second hand, so right palm facing up. Let the elbow come to your side like you're holding a plate in your hand. Spread your fingers apart. Take the left hand and gently press. And I like to do a few in motion first. Press down and then release. So building slowly on that. We use our wrists so much in yoga. We're weight bearing often in our wrists. So these are things that if you have a yoga practice too, it's a nice way to warm up your wrists. And maybe finding a point where you can hold that, stretch your right thumb away, And say nice things to your right wrist. Spread those fingers. Just the right amount of pressure with the left hand. And then releasing that. We'll do a counter pose to that one. So now we're going to take the hands and take the backs of the hands just down by the waist, like you mean business, right? You're very proud. Maybe you're going in for a job interview or something. Take the shoulders back. This is the Wonder Woman power pose right here. But actually I call it chicken wings. So you can take the backs of the hands and begin to slide them up towards your armpits, just as high as you can go. You might stop at the waist. You might be able to go higher. But slide them up and so just above the knuckle joints will be resting on the sides of the body. Relax the tops of the shoulders and then just let your elbows go heavy. So we don't even have to move. Just feel the stretch through the wrists because the weight of the upper arms and the elbows are falling. So if it's too much, your hands are further down here. If you want to go deeper, you can take your hands higher up underneath your armpits. If you want to try to flap a little bit like a chicken, go for it. Just breathing into the wrists. So feel that space. You'll feel compression now in the front of the wrists and that opening in the back of the wrists. Wrists are a funny thing. We really don't give them much attention or thought unless something's going on, right? Like many parts in our body, I suppose. And then we go consult Dr. Google. Just be present in your wrists and slowly release. This should feel good. Take your hands back together into that basket and now let your forearms come slightly together, as close as they'll come, but relax the shoulders and just make some figure 8 patterns with your wrists. Think of going in infinity signs and figure 8. So notice I'm not using my arms to move my wrists. My arms are still, and I'm focusing on initiating movement from the wrist. The more you can keep the wrist creases together, the more true the movement will be. So gently pressing those inner wrist creases together. If you've been going one way, go ahead and switch the direction. Sometimes that's interesting. Find those full circles. And then shake it out. Just let it go. All right, we're going to go into, so we did wrist flossing, 2 types of wrist flossing. Now we're going to do a full arm flossing. So we take the backs of the hands. Again, all this could be done at your desk, standing or seated. Backs of the hands pointing towards your heart. And as best you can, press the backs of the hands together. We should be ready for that now because our wrists are open up. And see if you can lift the thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up there so you can feel that stretch through the thumb ligament. And if your elbows are way down here, it'll be less sensational than the higher you lift your elbows towards the shoulders. So we want to try to get the elbows up a little bit. This one doesn't need to be done to your breath because I like you to go slow. But you're going to slowly begin to bring your hands away from your body, your fingertips. As you do that, though, keep the fingers, the backs of the fingers together until the very last moment, until your arms are all the way straight. And then flip the palms towards me. Draw the backs of the hands towards your body. So you've got full extension, palms out, even thumb stretching. So not partial stretch, big stretch. And then open all the way up as far as you can go. See if you can feel that all the way from the fingers through the thumb and through the arm into the shoulder. So this nerve flossing all the way through the arms. And then we can come slowly back. Just check in with your breathing. Once your arms are extended and the wrists are in front of the shoulders, begin to bring the hands back in, fingers together. As the backs of the fingers come together, we bend the elbows out to the sides and draw back in until the fingers are back at the heart. Pointing at yourself, yes, it's me, hello me. And then going back out, take your time, get that full extension in front of you, and then take it out to the sides. It's really easy to rush these things because we are usually in that mindset of more is better. But slower is actually more sensational and more mindful. Taking your time, doing what feels right. See if you can locate sensation all the way through the length of the arms, from the fingers through the shoulders. Each time I try to go a little further back. Backs the hands back together. And last one, always check your neck too, because we can't do arms and hands and shoulders without acknowledging the neck. Now we're going all the way back, open up. And back in. All right. So we're going to get the shoulders moving with a little help from our fingers. You're going to take your hands to the tops of the shoulders, and you might drop the elbows down, or again, the higher the elbows come, the more sensation you'll feel. But we're going to think of, so we're moving our shoulders from our arms. We have the help of the arms. You're going to make big circles with the elbows. Notice how moving your elbows, creating these circles with your elbows, is moving your whole shoulder girdle. So sometimes it's a good way to loosen it and find these movement patterns, letting the shoulder girdle move from the arms. Because then we're going to do it the other way. We're going to have the shoulder girdle move from the shoulder. We're going to keep the arm out of it. And whichever direction you're going, you can switch that direction. So now I'm going forward. And you might even gently squeeze your elbows. If you want to feel more stretch in your upper back, squeeze the elbows towards the front. Take them further back if you want to feel that stretch across your chest. So again, I could go really fast, but the slower I go, the deeper it is, the more sensational it is. And I really try to think, where am I missing? Are there spots that I'm missing out? So close your eyes. See if you can make those full circles. Feel it all the way through your chest wall and your upper back. And remember what that feels like. Your shoulder blades moving, the space around your collarbones. And then come down. So now we'll address the shoulders individually. But double check that we're not starting to slump, going into Slump Asana, as I call it. Sit up tall, find your sit bones again. Maybe take the soft palate back so your ears are resting nice and gently over your shoulders and the neck is long. We'll do our left shoulder first. So we're going to do that same circle, but I'm not using my arm. My arm is relaxed and heavy. I think of imagining that your arm is in a sling. You could even hold it there if you need to. But I'm going to do that same up and back and down and forward. So it's the same circle, but I'm not using my elbow. I'm not using the power of my arm. I'm moving it from the shoulder girdle. And it's different too when we do one shoulder at a time. The nervous system is used to responding to both shoulders moving together, but oftentimes we have one shoulder that's sticky, or grumpy as I sometimes call it. So that grumpiness can get overlooked if we're doing both shoulders at the same time. Whereas if you do them one at a time, you might notice that one is a little stickier. And I'm doing that full circle, so forward and up and back and down. And I'm watching that I'm not using my arm. My arm is heavy. And you can switch directions, go up and forward and down and back. And notice the role that the whole upper chest and upper back play. Take it all the way back. Easy and slow. Full circles. A lot of times if these are new for you, they'll be a little jerky at first. So take your time, smooth it out. The jerkiness is just a sign that I like to think that what it means is that the nervous system is listening. It hasn't quite adapted to it yet. So as it smooths out, you know that that nervous system is getting the message. And then relax that left shoulder. Maybe notice if your two shoulders feel different at all. And we'll go into the right shoulder. So I'm going to take my right shoulder, arms relaxed, not moving from the elbow and the arm, and I'm going to go up and back and down and forward. I like to think of going all the way around a clock face. Make sure you hit the 12, the 3, the 6, and the 9, but then all those times in between. And I try to check that I'm not using my upper arm or my elbow, that's staying relaxed. This is my sticky shoulder. But hopefully it was helpful to you that we did both together first. I know it was for me. And you can switch the direction, go up and forward and down and back. All right. And then relax that for a moment. Again, if you're uncomfortable seated, you could be doing any of these standing. Get out of that habit of load bearing into the spine. If we sit a lot, that's a lot of load bearing for the spine, so you could be doing these standing. I've been standing, so now I'm seated with you. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is going to be more of a rotation of the torso, so the upper body, because our pelvis is going to stay still. Once again, you can place your fingers on the tops of the shoulders, and the elbows can stay more at your sides. The higher you lift them, the more sensation. So I'm going to go ahead and take my elbows up, and I come to center here on the exhalation, if you want to do it to your breath. And then as I inhale, I'm going to try to breathe into my chest. Just see if you can feel movement in your chest. And we breathe through our nose if possible. You can breathe out your mouth if you want, but try to breathe in your nose. And as you feel that fullness, next time you feel that fullness, fill up and then rotate to the left. And let your head go too. And then exhale, empty. Come back to the center. You might even drop your elbows when you come back to center. Inhale. Feel lift, fullness. Take it into the twist to the right. And exhale. So super simple. And then keeping my head in the same space, I'm not turning my head first. I'm initiating from my shoulders and my neck. So my chin is staying right over the sternal notch the entire time. So it's not head and then here. It's head moving as part of the shoulder girdle. So we're not straining the neck. Exhaling, relaxing. Lengthen and make space and rotate. Exhale back. You can do one more full round if you'd like. Notice the sensations under your armpits and the sides of your body. And exhale. Come back. Anything you need to do to move a little bit. We're going to go back into the arms. So that was bringing us into our torso. We're going to go specifically into the arms. But again, arms will affect our torso, our shoulder girdle. So now we're going to take both arms out to our sides. We try to get the wrist to the height of the shoulders. If you need to drop down more because you have anything going on in a shoulder joint, then please feel free to do that. Otherwise, reach out. So now I'm reaching out to the sides, but plug in. So that idea of bringing the upper arm bones into the shoulder sockets. Then imagine you have a door handle in your hands, in both hands. Just create a little bit of like a claw, right? Cat claw. And then you're going to flip your palms up and turn your upper arm bones away from you. So they'll go back, they're externally rotating. I like to do that on the inhale. And on the exhale, I'm going to turn the fronts of the hands, or the backs of the hands towards you, thumbs down, internally rotate the arm bones. So I'm feeling that doorknob and I'm turning it to the right and to the left. And a lot of this has to do with the interplay between arms and shoulders and neck. So can you do this without causing strain in your neck? Maybe you need to reposition your head, or if you need to take the arms down more. The thing I'm trying to avoid is bending my elbows. I want it to go, the sensation of my hands turning those doorknobs, to go all the way through into my shoulders, or beyond the shoulder joint, into the chest and the back. So finding this pattern of internal and external rotation, because we're going to play with this a lot today, and just noticing how far you can go. Might feel a little bit tedious, this one. And then drop down, relax. I've been focusing a lot on hands and arms today, so we'll do one to sort of counterpose for that, or this week I have been. Take your palms together. One of my very favorites, so easy to do anywhere you are, anytime, even in the grocery store, just don't hit anybody in the nose. Palms together, forearms together, squeeze to the middle. And then as you inhale, begin to lift up. But as I lift up, I imagine that I'm drawing my arms through water and I'm pulling my elbows away from one another, keeping the fingertips together, and the palms are going to face down towards my head. And then I'm going to draw my elbows out, but I'm stretching my fingers like those claws, elbows out to the sides and back, and then all the way back down. So I like to think of this one like you're scrubbing your shoulder blades. You're taking them in circles. Go as high up as you can over the head, and all the way back down and around, and then you'll feel that stretch your pectoral, the front chest area. The other thing we watch is that it's not the head and neck moving, right? We don't want to lock it in, let it be loosey-goosey, relaxed, but it's not doing this. I'm keeping my neck still. You can find a gazing point in front of you to look at somewhere at the horizon and keep your eyes on that gazing point. And your neck is staying still, and maybe just take the space underneath the nose slightly back so you're balancing your skull on the top of the neck, and then feel it through your shoulder girdle. Last one. All right, and then drop down, relax it. Okay. Do any movement in your chair that you need to, because we want to make sure that the lower half of the body isn't getting grumpy, because then that will draw our attention down there, and we're trying to give our upper body some love. So we're going to go back into that internal external rotation, but a little bit more sensationally, because we're going to take our arms into a goalpost shape. So if there's discomfort, our elbows are down here, and recognize the difference between sensation and pain. So we can have a lot of sensation, but that's different than I can't breathe, I'm worried about what I'm going to feel like tomorrow. So if you can, lift the elbows up to the height of the shoulders, and your palms are going to face me. Got some nice cactus goalpost arms. And then I like to do it to the breath. As I inhale, I'm going to purposely, so it's active, bring the palms down towards the floor, and imagine trying to lift the top of the elbows up. There's the internal rotation. Then I exhale back to center. Now this one won't look like I'm going very far, especially in my body, but I'm going to inhale, imagine taking the backs of the hands towards the floor behind me and lifting the inner elbow. So that's arm bones, upper arm bones rotating away from the body. Exhale back. Internal rotation. Release. External rotation. Release. Take your time. This is one again that might build a little heat. You might even feel fatigue. And then we're going to change it slightly. So now you're going to do one arm one way and one the other way. So one will face down, one will go up. And that's just more to play with your brain. And my head automatically starts to go. I'm going to turn my head towards the top arm. So now the neck gets to play too. It's a lot. We do this one on the ground sometimes, and it's easier because you feel the forearms on the ground, so it's hard to keep the arms in this space. So if they keep dropping down, take a break for a moment, get them back up to that 90-degree angle, and then try again. And if you're successful in turning your head towards that top hand, whoopsie, I forgot to drop it down. This is all like neuromuscular patterning, that's the big word for it. Just getting stuck. It's this idea that we kind of get locked in to particular movements. The rigidity that builds in our bodies when we're always doing the same thing. But you can also look down at the bottom hand, just for a change. Notice how that affects the way that you move, the smoothness of the movement. All right, I'm tired, build some heat up, let it go, relax. But notice how your upper arm bones feel, your chest, maybe just be still with your palms facing up for a few breaths. We'll take a moment to break. Reground yourself if need be into your feet, your sit bones. Take some loving, compassionate breaths into your chest and your lungs. Just pausing for a moment. So if you're choosing to stay in your chair, you absolutely can. We were just resting with our palms up. But this next one, if you're in your chair, you'd need to slide to the front of the chair. Otherwise, I recommend we do it standing. So I'm standing, I needed to stand anyhow. The other thing is, if you have a ball, you can bring a ball in for this one. It's not required, but if you've got one there, it makes it a little more playful. And I just like the added, the touch, the feeling sensation of the ball in our hands. So I will show it with and without a ball, but it's going back to the idea of that external and internal rotation, those doorknobs, those pretend doorknobs we were turning. So we'll start with just the left arm, and if you're choosing to stand, make sure that you're taking your shoulders over your hips and your hips over your feet and feel yourself into your feet. And I'm going to start by just taking that imaginary doorknob. I'll start my hand down here, and I'm going to turn the palm up and turn the arm bone out, but I'm going to watch it. Like I'm holding something up to the sky, and I want to look at it. I'll feel a little stretch through the right side of the neck. And then I'm going to turn that arm bone in, palm back, so internal rotation, but I'm going to bend the elbow and take the hand behind me, still looking at the shoulder. So from the back side, it looks like this. Inhaling, externally rotating the arm bone. Exhaling, arm bone comes down. And I'm still looking at that shoulder. Eventually, we're going to look over the other shoulder. So follow your hand with your gaze, but roll like you're holding that doorknob still. Roll the whole arm, and then look over at the hand. The hand might be somewhere on your right hip. Do just a few more on just that side. Just feeling that relationship. So we're getting a little bit more into the neck. So the relationship between arm, shoulder, and neck. All right. Relax that side. So if you're running into your chair seated, what you need to do is sit more on the very edge of your chair. You're on the edge, right? You're on the edge of your chair because you're just so excited to do this. Otherwise, I'm standing. But it does work in a chair as well. Now for the right arm, same thing, starting down here, create that little bit of a claw and turn your arm bone out and lift it up and watch the hand. You're presenting something up to the heavens. And notice how your whole side's lifting. You want to touch the heavens. And then take it down, internally rotate the arm. You're watching it, you're bending the elbow, and you're taking it behind you. And I'm not necessarily doing that to my breath. And it's like I'm trying to look at my hand by my left hip. And just that right arm, that feeling sensation. Some of these, when we first do them, it's like, what is this doing for me? But I can tell you this is one of the movements that it's so subtle in so many ways, but it really helps me with controlling, I don't like the word controlling, but creating a kind relationship between my neck and my shoulders. Letting them talk to one another. And one more. So if you have a ball and you want to bring the ball in, I'll use a tennis ball. It's a little stickier. I'll show it with the ball because then we're going to be changing. We're going to go side to side, then we're also going to change the head. So you get to see my backside for a little while. Turning around. Now I actually have that's why I like the ball, by the way, is it can be any size, but you can actually wrap your hand around it and squeeze it a little bit. And then that way you'll feel the muscles in that arm. So you're going to squeeze that ball, flip it up, watch it, raise it up to the sky, and then internally rotate, take it down, switch to the other hand, take it up, externally rotate. The other arm can relax if you can just let that drop. And then back in, internally rotate. So the shoulder will come forward when you internally rotate. Take it back behind you. Try to look at the ball, hand it off, drop the left shoulder. So part of this is in the work of only having one arm active. We're not holding this one tight. Can you just let it go? And then back. Switching sides, so from the front, like this, raising it up. Really slowly coming down. Trying to find the ball, relaxing the opposite arm. And think of turning that doorknob so you're getting that full internal, so the internal shoulder coming forward. Feel the stretch in your upper back shoulder blade. Switch it out. External rotation, feel the stretch in the front of the chest around the collarbone, in the inner arm, and back down. So if you want to pause for a moment, you can. We're going to continue with this movement, but for one change. Oops, forgot to release that. I want you to look in the opposite direction of the ball. So I'm still going to externally rotate, lift up, but I'm going to look away from it. Like, I don't want to know what's in my hand. I'm going to look the other way. And then as it internally rotates and starts to coming down, goes over there, oh, don't want to see it, going to look the other way, hand it off. Looking the other way, reaching up, and taking the ball back down and around. So if you don't have the ball, you're doing the same thing. I just like the feel of the ball, looking the opposite direction. Now see if you can make it really smooth. Just let your head fall. Don't force it anywhere. And you might feel your chest move. Be more, I guess the way to say it is to be a little bit more organic. So if you feel locked in your feet or if you're seated, let the rest of your torso respond to your arms. So if I'm really locked in, it's like nothing else is moving, right? Just my head. I'm gonna let the ribs come forward too. And my head drop and my shoulder. And oh my goodness, it's just going to drop down that way. Let the shoulder fall. I'm just bending and falling. I was going to go up this way. Oh, I'm going to reach. And then I'm just going to bend and fall, right? So let the rest of your body, other way, follow your arm except for your head. Head's going in the opposite direction. And you'll notice how you'll create these nice little side curves through your body. And continue for one or two more if you'd like. And let go. And this next one, the ball can be used on the ground, coming onto our abdomen, or at the wall. I will show both. I show both because if you are in a situation at work, this is something you can do at work. If you're at home practicing and you want to lay yourself down on your abdomen, please go ahead and do that. Any size ball, you will need a ball for this though. So you can also, I brought a bigger one in. Sometimes a bigger one is easier to move than a smaller one, so you can play with that, even if you have the slow-mo ball at home. So showing it at the wall, the key here is to keep the arms straight, no bent elbows. You're going to walk into the wall, say hello, get close and comfy, up at close and personal, and then take the ball into the palm of your hand, but instead of holding it, spread your fingers, draw your fingers back, and press the palm into the ball. And then what I want you to think is, how could you move that ball in circles from your shoulder blade and your collarbone? So if I bend my elbow and hold the ball, that's cheating, but I'm not going to bend my elbow. This is moving it from my arm. I'm going to keep the arm straight and move from my shoulder blade and collarbone, and going nice and slow. So if you choose to do this on your belly, know that the ball can be a little bit slippery. You can come onto your belly, relax. I use my right arm as a pillow and take the ball out to my side. And I'm doing that same thing, spreading my fingers, so lifting the fingers away from the floor, palm of the hand into the ball, and rolling the ball in circles from the shoulder blade. Rest of the body's relaxed. And this first one, there's different positions we're going to do. So this first one, the ball's right at about the height of the shoulder. You can even take it down here more. You can play with doing it down at wrist below the height of the shoulder. See if you can get some juicy movements from here in the shoulder girdle, front and back. Arm stays straight. You'll know if you're doing it right because there will be a sense of tiredness or fatigue. So rolling it around, if you've been going one direction, try to switch. Go the other direction. And then I'm going to go back and forth between floor and wall for this next one. So if you're at the wall, same thing, except we're going to begin to bring the arm overhead. So you might step away from the wall. I've got a light here, but I'm going to walk the ball up the wall. And now I'm going to do it overhead. And so instead of thinking of moving from the collarbone and the shoulder blade, I'm going to think of moving from underneath the armpit, from the rib cage. And I'm going to make those circles. So you're getting into this nice lung tissue here in your left side. If I'm down on the ground, back and forth, then I've got the ball. Make sure it's not too slippery. Support your head, relax your pelvis. Got the ball under the hand. My wrist is overhead, lined up with my shoulder, and I'm reaching. I'm like trying to push the ball away from me, but in a circular motion. And I'm moving. I'm still feeling shoulder blade and collarbone, but really trying to feel it through the side of the body by the armpit there. Rolling it around. You might feel the top of the shoulder moving. Slow, big, full circles. So sometimes I find that doing it on the ground creates more of a sense of connectedness because you're falling into the ground, you have ground to support you, whereas I find doing it here at the wall is more of a stretch. Really reach up and feel like I'm trying to lift my rib cage up the wall with my hand. And again, explore both directions. Watch that you're not bending your elbow. So if it needs to be lower, if your arm doesn't go all the way overhead, that's okay. Let it go lower. Doing a few more for that left arm. And then you can drop it down. If you're on the ground, you could do crocodile pose, cross opposite hand to elbow. Just roll your shoulders around a little bit. Notice that left side and right side. So you're choosing to either do it on your belly or at the wall. It's all up to you. We'll do the right arm this time. So right arm, ball goes into the hand, but into the palm of the hand, and I'm not holding it, I'm spreading my fingers. So notice how if you take your hand out to the side, you spread your fingers, it's gonna activate the muscles in the arm. It kind of locks them in a little bit. So now the arm feels like it's an extension of your shoulder girdle, and that's what we want. We want that extension. Press the ball into the wall slightly, spread your fingers, even your thumb, and then try to make circles with that ball from the front and the back of the shoulder, not the arm itself. If you're down on the ground, it might look something like this. If you're having discomfort or the elbow is bending a lot, try taking the arm down towards your feet more. It's just a different feeling too. Or you can have it right at the height of the shoulder. So this is definitely an exploration in the relationship, but this time the relationship between the arm and the shoulder. Let your head and neck stay relaxed. Keep that little bit of pressure of the palm pushing into the ball. You have to do that if you're at the wall, but if you're on the ground, you got to push downward just a little bit. Just circling. But think of creating the circle. You can feel the circling motion of your hand, but it's being created by the shoulder girdle. And you can switch the direction. Check in with your breath every now and again. Drawing in and out. And we'll take that one down, let it go. All right. And then we'll do the same thing, but you're going to play with how high the ball wants to go. So if you know you don't like full extension, if there's any pulling or tugging, you can be more down here. That would mean that if you're on the ground, resting your belly on the earth, you could have the hand not all the way overhead, or so that the wrist, whoopsies, there goes my ball. Let me grab the other one. The wrist is in line with the shoulder. These are the things that I need an assistant to say, could you give me that ball back, please? So I'm reaching overhead, crawling around on my belly like a lizard, and rolling. I actually like the feel of the bigger ball down here anyhow. So it takes more movement to roll the bigger ball. So you might keep that in mind if you are choosing to use a different ball, or if you ever do these on your own. Experiment with different size balls because it'll create different feelings. And all of those different feelings, it's like making new pathways, new neural pathways into your body. Every time you can create a new feeling and be present for that feeling. So I could do the bigger ball, except now we're overhead. I'm supposed to be up here, and you're reaching. Think of reaching from the right rib cage and under the armpit. Air out those armpits. I like to rest my forehead on my opposite arm if I'm at the wall. The sense of what are we using, so what is active and what can be relaxed. That we're not building tension through the back of the neck or the left arm, but circling from that shoulder. All right. I want to take that one down. If you're on your belly, please stay there for a moment. If you're standing and if you're at work, this is where we are going to come down to the floor. So sayonara, or do this whole practice when you have an opportunity. If you're on your belly, just slowly make your way onto your backside. You can roll over. And while you're doing that, I'm going to be seated for a moment and just explain to you what happens. So a lot of times when we sit a lot at a desk or sit anywhere watching TV, reading a book even, things that we enjoy and maybe are good for us mentally, stimulating in a positive way, we still tend to round. And we call this kyphosis of the back. So what happens in kyphosis is that the back upper body muscles are stretched but weak, and the front upper body muscles are short or tight and weak. So either way, we have weakness in both places. So this last movement we're going to do will address this position, or sometimes we call it old age position. But know that it's not old age position. That's all a whole different class called the myth of aging. It's just a myth that we need to be in this position. And these somatic movements really help to keep us from going down that path. So what we do sometimes when we have muscles that are stuck in that position is, where it sounds counterintuitive, we actually tighten further into what's already tight and stretch further into what is already stretched. Reason being is that it's still, from a standpoint of your nervous system, it's moving the muscles, right? It's moving them further towards the direction we don't want to go, yet it's moving them. So we're going to come down onto the ground, and we want to have the knees bent with feet on the floor in constructive rest. Make sure your back and spine is fully supported. If you have any contraindications in your neck, you're not going to do the head lift, and I'm going to cue it without the head first. But remember when we were doing the internal rotation of the arms. So just lay for a moment, and as you breathe out, see if you can turn those arms in. It does help to do it to the breath, but you don't have to. turn the arms inward, lift them off the floor like you're going to touch the backs of the hands together, maybe even do. And notice how you're creating tightness not only in the arms, but through the front of the chest. So you can exhale and squeeze, and then inhale. Just release them down. Do that a few times to your breath. Purposely squeeze. I can even feel like, it feels like there's a weight on my chest. There's this tightness in the center of my chest. And imagine then what that does to your respiration, right? This really limits our ability to breathe fully. So we're going to take that into that tight point, but we're going to hold it there and squeeze. And you may notice that it's difficult to breathe into your chest. So if you need to belly breathe, do that. You're going to feel that big active stretch across your upper back, the tightness through your arms. Keep the head and the neck and the tongue soft. And then slowly, slowly, bit by bit, release out of that pattern of tension. So you're rolling your arm bones outward and wherever they land. So for me, sometimes I let them land at my sides. As I start to expand more, I might slide them up overhead. I might even roll them away, and this is my landing point, because this is more expansive. If I roll the arm bones out and slide them slightly overhead, that's going to be even more expansive space to rest in than down here, but see what works for you. Let's do that 2 more times. Roll the arms in as tight as you can, like you're trying to touch the front of the shoulders towards one another or onto your collarbones. Squeeze and breathe. Back of the neck long. And then a very slow, feel yourself releasing all of that tension. And can you just let the shoulders, feel the backs of the shoulders fall. So this next one, if we want to see if our neck wants to eventually lift, what we can add to this is before we lift the neck, just tucking the chin towards the chest, because that brings us into these SCM muscles in the front of the neck, which those tend to be short too because of head forward syndrome. So we're going to bring those arms in and tuck the chin slightly towards the chest. Or think of lifting the brow point up towards the sky. So instead of moving from the chin, you can move from your skull, bring brow point forward and upward, and squeeze those arms. If you're having any problem breathing, then back off a little bit, because you'll notice it'll also close your throat down. And then that slow release, you might feel your brow point lifting towards the back of your mat or up towards the sky, your nose lifting up. And let go. If that's all feeling okay for you, we do it with a head lift. So I'm going to roll the arm bones inward. Remember, that's the first part, the internal rotation. I've still got those doorknobs rolling in and then squeezing to the middle of my body. Tuck the chin towards the chest. I can lift the head up too. So then I'm really feeling tightness through the front of the throat as well. Breathing. And slowly, slowly, let the weight of the head come down, weight of the arms, relax. So watch the rest of your body too, and the reason that cue came up is I just noticed for me, as I was squeezing here, I realized I was also pushing my feet into the floor and tightening my legs. So if we can create this tension or simulating the tension of the rounding of the upper back, that kyphosis, but keeping everything else relaxed. It's hard to do, right? Because when we hold tension in one area of our body, sometimes someplace else will respond. If you know this is not for your neck, then you're keeping your head on the ground. But I often find that this is one of the things that helps to release my neck. I even gently move your head from side to side when you come down, make circles with the back of the skull. We're finishing up with this, so feel free to do one more. Explore, create, go beyond your normal range of tightness. So create tightness. Lift the head if you'd like. So we're really getting into those front neck muscles. Keep breathing. Sometimes I even tighten the muscles in my face. You want to see what that looks like? Like you just ate something really bitter. Now you can squeeze the cheeks towards the eyes and the brow towards the eyes. Tighten everything in that front area. And then let it go. Let it go. Take any movements that feel good for you. So know that one too, you can do it in a chair. So if you ever were stuck in a chair, and I do it sometimes like in cars or airplanes, you can purposely squeeze it all in. And then just sigh. What does a sigh feel like, right? So different than I'm here, or I'm here, right? Just a sigh. So I want you to take a sigh now and find your place where you want to relax. Feel free to move your arms, take your legs into position where they're supported. If you want to extend your legs, feel free to put a bolster or something underneath them. I know we kind of ignored the legs today. So they'll have their day. There's other videos. I just did leg day. I've done a couple leg day videos. But today was about this area in our body, which for many of us is a place where we hold tension, right? Head, neck, shoulders, arms, even the wrists, the hands. But right now there is hopefully no tension at all. There's just this feeling of being fully supported, palms up or down. And just be amazed at all of the ways that these often unnoticed areas of your body were able to move in this practice. The simplicity of starting by just moving your fingers and being present to feel your fingers moving and to acknowledge the relationship that your fingers have through the whole length of your arms. It's about working with particular areas or parts of our body. But in the end, we do that because we want to feel ourselves as a whole. Recognize the way that everything is interconnected. And we could say that that's on the physical body plane, but it's also in our thoughts. We think of how important body language is, particularly in our upper body, to show when we're feeling sad or tired or when we're feeling energetic. What is the position of your shoulders in that space of energy or that space of sadness or tiredness? And right now we're not in either of those. We're in that medium space, that sigh. Go ahead and take a sigh if you'd like. Breathe in your nose. Sigh out your mouth. And just see where your bones land.